your information technology team to spend a little bit of time talking about the IT strategy and also the budget. There is nowhere in the back office, if you will, of the city that there is more change going on, and there's a lot of change going on in that portfolio, than in IT, particularly over the last couple of years, and in fact, the last year itself. The change in the environment in which we operate, the change in the technology itself, the change in the employment market, all really hitting IT. So if you look through the slide package, we've really defined a somewhat evolution of our previous strategies. The first is a very strong emphasis and a lot of investment in digital services. So digital services really is everything to do with our software platforms, our software tools, let's put it that way. It's everything from our core tools, PeopleSoft being the primary among them, but there are any number of other tools as well that we use throughout the city. And there's a lot of pressure for us to migrate those off-premise into the cloud. Some of that's coming from vendors, some of that's coming from our other partners. And you'll hear more about this from Kelsey May in a moment, but it's a significant change. It means a lot less hardware on-premise, but that doesn't mean necessarily less people nor less complexity. It just means less physical hardware. Cybersecurity cannot overemphasize, the need for cybersecurity. Unprecedented times. The war in the Ukraine has made this worse, and it was already really bad. We are as vigilant as we possibly can. As Dave Proack likes to say, we punch far outside our weight. We have been very fortunate where many of our partners and other municipalities have not. But, in some ways, it's a question of when and how bad, not if, is probably the reality of the situation. So cybersecurity, huge focus on what we do. Infrastructure and support services. That's kind of traditional IT, and it's getting less and less so. Traditional IT is rapidly becoming digital services and cybersecurity. Infrastructure and support services will always be in place, but infrastructure, hardware, just is not nearly as important as it used to be. It's much more of a commodity than it ever was. The focus of our investment, the focus of our time really is on the first two. So with that, Kelsey, you want to talk about the digital services landscape for the next couple of years?
Sure. Sure, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kelsey May. I'm the Director of Digital Services for the city. Nice to see you all. So we have spent a lot of time this last year really taking a look at our technology landscape and identifying what we need to do over the next few years. Historically, I think IT has been, as an industry, rather reactive. And we have an opportunity to work with very established members of the organization to understand how can we actually be proactive and look at our priorities over the next several years instead of the next year. We have done a ton of work at doing internal service delivery, employee experience, those back office functions, PeopleSoft, Kronos, understanding what it takes to actually deliver those and make it successful. We've also taken a look at a lot of our constituent-facing platforms. How do we modernize that experience and ultimately get better service delivery? And of course, how do we integrate all of these? How does a service request, initiate or originate on the website, and how does the life cycle of that specific task or event actually follow through all of these systems so that we can create, a better city, essentially. So listed are the currently resourced and in-flight projects to some degree. We've built up a team over this last year. We've established an apprenticeship program to actually staff these positions to, make these happen. We've tried to figure out how to make these positions more accessible to city residents and create a more representative department, based on city residents. So these are just a summary of the major projects in flight, and what's not listed before you are some of the smaller projects that we're working on. If you look on the next page, this is our project backlog. So over the next several years, especially for this next fiscal year and the following fiscal year, we need to prioritize scoping these projects. Anything that you see that doesn't have a little bar that indicates when it's going to happen, these are the things that we need to prioritize. We've heard repeatedly feedback from you all as well that we need to start prioritizing the ability of our PeopleSoft financials landscape, and that we need to make the best use of that platform, and we agree. There's a lot of challenges in understanding what it is that we deal with that isn't working exactly right, that isn't working correctly. So we want to take this time in the next year to do a comprehensive discovery, understand how to prioritize all of these different implementations, which take months of time to plan, implement, execute, test, all of those things. We also want to prioritize moving to a new FOIL tracker system to make that more, visible to the residents. We want to have access to information that has already been FOILed before, and make that a better experience overall internally for the law department as well as the constituents. Constituent relationship management. There are a number of departments who have been, talking about this over the years. There's been a lot of needs that we've been hearing across departments, and anticipation for having a constituent relationship management software. And, that is a massive undertaking, and we want to take it seriously. And in order to make the best use of the money that we do put towards this in future years, we really want to take this next year and plan out what exactly is it that we want to do, who do we want to accomplish this with, and overall, how do we, create a better experience for the constituents.
Great, thanks, Kelsey. Dave, you want to talk a little bit about where we are with cybersecurity and where we need to be?
Sure. Morning, everybody. Dave Proack, Director of IT. As we've all read in the paper, and heard on the news, the cybersecurity landscape has never been more tenuous. The threats are real. It's not just big name municipalities that are being taken down. There is a municipality about 10 miles north of us whose police department was down in January because they got hacked. It happens to cities and towns everywhere. Nobody is immune, whether it's a nation state coming after you, or it's just a rogue 18-year-old somewhere. The threats are real. We spend more money and spend more time on this year after year after year. And even with that, I've met with Frank, I've met with the mayor, and we're not doing enough. The bad guys are really, really good at what they do. And there's no amount of money or resources you can spend or throw at it that is going to keep you 100% safe. So the city's making I'm going to call it a bold move, but a significant move. We're going to have some personnel dedicated just to cybersecurity. Some larger businesses have a staff that are dedicated to it. Some larger municipalities do as well. City of Buffalo does. City of Yonkers asked for such a role. They didn't get one in last year's budget, but they were down for 3 weeks in September due to a ransomware event. I bet you they get it this year. So the city is going to put its money where its mouth is a little bit. We're going to have a dedicated staff to just cybersecurity. We're going to raise the bar on how we act and how we give folks access to their information. You've heard a lot about the Microsoft 365 project that's coming. When that comes, that will require two-factor authentication for you to access your email, access OneDrive. A lot of the things we do now are gonna get shifted, and it's gonna be a little more intense to access our information. And we're not doing this alone. And a lot of things are coming together for us. New York State is making a historic investment in cybersecurity. They're standing up what they call a JSOC, a Joint Security Operations Center. And this is being run out of the Department of Homeland Security for New York State. It's in the budget. It's like being against Santa. No one's suggesting it was never, ever going to be not going to get supported, such that we've been meeting with them for the last 6 or 8 weeks. And this should be operational probably by July 1st or so. This will be a resource that multiple municipalities get to leverage and work in partnership with New York State. We're looking at tightening up our security around the mobile devices that city personnel use. There's, and as I mentioned before, there's a lot of things coming together. It's the feelings and the commitment from the mayor and from Frank. And quite frankly, the cyber insurance market, we go to the market and we have a cyber insurance policy, as most businesses do. It is extremely difficult to get that policy in place now. Hospitals, schools, and municipalities are prime targets for hackers because historically, if we get hacked, we pay, right? Why did Bonnie and Clyde go to the banks to rob? Because that's where the money was. No different now. So the cyber insurance market is very, very tight. Our premium went up by over 100% in 1 year. We've had no claims. And it's not going to let up. It's a different world out there. And it's before Ukraine and Russia and all this other stuff.
Thanks, Dave. So where does that leave our, what we traditionally call IT, infrastructure and support services? So as I mentioned in the beginning, the vast majority of our systems are moving to the cloud. So on-premise servers are, over the next few years, really going to become less and less important. Our core system, PeopleSoft, is already, the provider has already classified it as end of life. They will not support on-premise PeopleSoft any longer. We share that on-premise installation with the county. We're going to have to move it to the cloud in a relatively short period of time. Probably faster for us, as Kelsey mentioned, because we need to upgrade PeopleSoft. We need to upgrade the functionality. We're a large organization. We have no accounts receivable module. We need to turn that on. We'll probably turn that in the cloud. We do millions of dollars in grants and contracts every year. We have no way to manage that in PeopleSoft. It was that module was never turned on. We will turn that on. We will probably move that to the cloud, and the core system will move to the cloud. The other portion of PeopleSoft, their namesake, where they started, was around human resources information systems. Human capital management is what they call it. We will likely turn that on as part of our payroll modernization process. We will likely turn that on in the cloud. So it is moving everything, including our core systems, to the cloud. We'll also focus very much here on our Internet of Things network, the sensors that we have pilots of out now. That's going to be expanding. The demand for the Internet of Things is doing nothing but growing. We have a variety of departments, the water department and DPW in particular, but others also that are really looking to expand the sensor network. We're going to have to build out that network. All of this means that we're going to be retiring the venerable, I'll call it, instead of archaic, venerable AS400. It's a literally decades-old system. It is better than scratching on cave walls with pointy sticks, but not by much. It needs to go. It needs to go quickly. Kelsey and her team are working with consultants now. They've given us a preliminary map, an inventory of what needs to be retired. We now need to do the roadmap of when and how it's going to be retired.
We don't have a timeline on that for
Not,
retirement?
not yet, but we're working on it. We just did that, we just finished the inventory, President Hudson, and the next step will be for them to do the timeline to start looking at which pieces can retire. Payroll will be the first one, obviously, as part of payroll modernization.
That's going
but
to
there's-
PeopleSoft?
That's going to go to, that is likely to go to PeopleSoft, yep. Expanded help desk capabilities. So this is the piece in legacy IT that isn't going away. But instead of how do I turn my machine on and how do I make it do this or how do I make it do that, it's going to be how do I manage this piece of software? How do I integrate these two pieces of software? How do I get the information from this piece of software into another piece of software? So we're going to need to expand our help desk capabilities. And then again, our declining reliance on legacy IT means that our IT professionals are going to need to be retrained and refocused on this whole new area. So where does this leave the budget? It is unlikely that the vacant positions in the that are still showing in the budget. These are positions that we expanded in last budget year. Digital Services has been able to make the investments in staff that our traditional IT side has not. That's probably okay. We're going to shift those salary dollars. It's likely we'll probably just give up on some of that hiring. We just haven't been able to attract the people and move that more and more to partnerships with third-party vendors. So Dave right now spends a considerable amount of money with outside consultants, some of whom are located here in the city. We have a roster of, what are we up to, 5 or 6, Dave? 5 or 6 consultants that we use on a regular basis. And as we wind this business down, it makes more sense to do that with partners as this business becomes less and less important to us at the same time that we're gearing up.
Okay, quick question.
Yep, sure.
You're on that subject. So where are you looking? Are we looking in the schools, on the graduates, so it's coming out? Are we the local?
So we,
area?
absolutely, we do. And Kelsey can talk about the apprenticeship program that she started, because we're not attractive for a well-established IT professional. We're simply not. We're not an employer of choice for a variety of reasons, but we are for someone who's young and frankly under-credentialed. And so we are hiring folks who are under-credentialed, whether they're coming right out of the schools or not, giving them experience, putting them in a position to earn college credit, and hopefully we'll hang on to them.
Because you know outsourcing is huge.
Yep.
Okay, and when we're talking about consultants, I'm sure we're paying quite a bit to have these
Oh, yes.
consultants at the table.
We are. But they go away. So the end of the, so there are projects. So for example, the Kronos project, the payroll modernization, we would never be able to have the expertise in-house to do that. But those consultants have a short time period. We pay them not an inconsiderable sum, and then they go away.
So is there a way I'll speak for me, that I can get a list of what we're paying out to these consultants?
Sure, absolutely. Yep,
Okay.
no question. Yep, absolutely.
Where does that live on the budget? Is that professional services?
It is, it lives in professional services, and we will likely shift some of the salary dollars into professional services, yes.
You'll see in fiscal year '21, we spent over $100,000 in professional services. This year, we're going to do about $450,000. We've had a couple of key retirements, and we've had a lot of projects going on, and we've not been able to attract experienced talent, and the work's got to get done.
You consulted out.
And we've used ARPA dollars, which will also include, in a report back to you, we've used ARPA dollars as part of the move to Office 365. We have a local city-based consultant who is using a national consulting firm as their advisors to lead us through the Office 365, and that's not an inconsiderable amount of money either. So
Why can't we attract?
we can't pay enough, first off. The folks in this line of business make enormous amounts of money, and so we simply could never pay enough. And frankly, the work isn't as challenging as it would be in other places. Our network, our legacy system is pretty pedestrian. And the folks in this line of business want to be working on stuff that's bigger and more exciting for, more cutting edge, if you will. We use very standard technology. There's nothing particularly exciting about here. And they can write their own tickets and go code video games, frankly.
I'm in the wrong field.
So that's why this business, particularly legacy IT, is less and less for an organization our size or smaller, or even really a little bit bigger, to have an on-staff IT hardware, software, legacy department. It's a managed service, shared services world. That's why you see such a proliferation of organizations in the city of Syracuse and beyond that do this business. You take, they have 15 people on staff, they can serve 100 organizations with 15 people. We can't afford to have 15 people on staff that are just focused on what we do. And there's just too much specialty expertise that's required. So it's really a managed services world for this kind of business.
And just a couple more comments on the labor market. There's a lot of jobs. There's not a lot of candidates. So to attract a candidate here, we pay less than the county does. We pay less than our school district does. And I have to get them to take a civil service exam, and I have to get them to live in the city.
Doesn't 365 come with its own support from Microsoft?
It does. It does. Now, so, that when we roll that out, our help desk is just going to be swamped with calls in the beginning. So any relief we get from going to a modern supported platform like that, that's a little ways down the road. Like right now, we're in the middle of the migration, which is extremely intense. Then we're going to go live, and everyone is going to be calling the help desk nonstop to this new world order, right? Then we'll get some relief. And then we'll begin to eke out some of those efficiencies, because now you're going to have a modern platform to work on. So that's coming, but it's a little bit down the road.
I would think the modern platform, and I could be wrong, would be more user-friendly than the old dinosaur that you're using now.
Yes.
Once we get it installed, yes, the change management to the migration. The other point, Counselor, is that we will still be, on software, we'll be the point of triage. So we won't have 780 whatever users calling Microsoft directly. We'll still need a help desk that will triage, will handle that first level support, and then that help desk will in turn go to Microsoft when they need support. Is mostly the way the system works, and it's the same with PeopleSoft. It's the same with most of our enterprise platforms.
In this coming year.
There's a huge amount of this change that's happening this coming year. Between payroll modernization and moving to Office 365 and the others that are on the first page of Kelsey's slide, there's a tremendous amount of change that's happening in 1 year. We have systems, frankly, that we suffer from disinvestment over decades. We suffer from the fact that we didn't have the dollars to put into the changes, and there was a reluctance to do it because it is very difficult. But now we really don't have any choice because we have so many systems that are unsupported that it's like trying to find parts for a Model T. You can do it, but it isn't easy and it's really expensive, and that's kind of where we are right now.
So Dave, as you transition to 365 and you are contracting all of these out, and you said as you transition, you're going to have probably a good amount of requests.
Sure.
For that.
Yep.
Now, how does that work, contracting that out as well?
So one way that works is we're getting ahead of it where we can. We can anticipate a lot of those questions by using, it's called OCM, Organizational Change Management. So there's going to be a large campaign to go to all of our users, let them know what's coming, when it's coming. We have a small group of folks called the Proof of Concept Group that are going to go live with this hopefully the end of this week. So we're going to learn from them with the questions and experience they have. We go to scale that. Instead of doing it for a group of 25, we're going to do it for a group of another 750 people. So we're going to get a good feel for the number of questions and the speed bumps that they have. So first of all, we're getting ahead of it. We're going to come up with a campaign training, and we're thinking about having, almost like back in the college days, office hours, where you'll be able to, we'll have dedicated hours where there'll be somebody waiting to ask your question. So if any folks on site want to come over and get some face-to-face help, we're going to probably open that up the first few weeks.
And this is, Counselor, just excuse me, this is, the questions about the change management and digital, probably to Kelsey, because her team is the team that's really working on this and building that whole change management structure. Dave's got the technical side, so just to make clear who on either side of me can best answer your questions.
Yes, I had other one. In terms of financial, is this better contracting out as opposed to hiring people to deal with this in-house?
It's a qualified yes. Yeah, it's a really qualified yes. It's a different financial structure. It is unlikely in the long run to be less expensive, but it is a different type of expense to contract it out. We could never afford to do it at the level we're doing it in-house. We couldn't simply bring that expertise onto our own roster. We wouldn't be able to do it, but the cost is, we're really just shifting cost from salary dollars to support dollars.
Remember, there's a cost to an organization our size, having older technology. You don't see it. You're not paying a bill, but there's cost to having folks using Office application from 2013, right? So that ship has sailed. We need to move forward.
And one quick question before we move on. So all of this technology and all of what we're doing, does this cross sections, is this going to be used in the police department, for instance?
Yeah, so I can speak to that, President Hudson. So as part of the payroll modernization effort, as you know, we really wanted to focus on getting all on the same timekeeping system. So the police department did actually go live with their Kronos product Telestaff a few months ago, which has given us a tremendous amount of insights into overtime details, something that we weren't able to accomplish with the AS400. When the actual time, police departments or the police officers are actually using that time. And we're also looking at other opportunities to work with the police department. Chief Schaaf has been a really great person to partner with to look at, consolidating platforms and using the same platforms here as they are there, and, making better use of enterprise thinking rather than siloed departmental thinking.
Right, and Frank, when you get that report on the overtime, can you pass it along?
Wish somebody could fix that. Yes, we have much, to Kelsey's point, we have much greater insight into overtime, and that will continue. That'll get better as we move from Telestaff into, move it from the scheduling software into the payroll software. That insight will become even more concise and streamlined.
These are all civil service tests, right? These are all civil service tested jobs, Dave, and your...
The vast majority of them are. I don't think there's any on your team that are not, are there? Yeah,
We have actually either identified existing civil service titles and or created new ones.
So the county's got the same civil service,
Yes,
right?
okay.
But we pay them more?
Different.
One, IT, everybody, we're all civil service, every one of us.
But, I mean, what I'm saying, you said the county pays more, but they're in the still civil service classification that we are,
True,
right?
but correct me if I'm wrong, their bands are wider, or they just not.
Why can't our bands be wider?
celebrate.
I mean, if, to retain people, why can't we pay our people more?
So,
I mean, this is a critical thing, Frank. I agree with you as far as this budget goes.
Cybersecurity.
question. So, and now we're getting, we'll have some of this conversation around when we talk about HR, because our compensation framework is, let's be polite, essentially non-existent. So it has been, because we are so heavily unionized, the couple hundred people that are not represented, our salary and grade framework needs to be significantly updated, both to the market and internally. So while it would be comforting to think that we could just target a particular set and increase them, the ramifications that that has across the city on salary compression, it ends up being a domino effect. So we're particularly vulnerable in the city around any position that has a level of skill or expertise, particularly certified skill or expertise. So if we're talking about IT professionals, absolutely. If we're talking about engineers, if we're talking about mechanics, those are the kinds of positions where we are really vulnerable, and we need to take a comprehensive step-by-step look at it. That's one of the things that our new HR director has at the top of his list.
Maybe we could have API look at it.
We conceivably could have API look at it, but compensation theory is really, it's a science.
Because we're hampered right now, as I've said before, because we have the ARPA money and we don't have the people, the mechanics, to get the money into the pipeline sometimes.
So that is absolutely at the top of the new HR director's list to do, to put together a new comprehensive compensation framework, which I've been promising for 3 years, and hopefully will come to deliver.
You're in charge.
I mean,
I hear you,
that's
you're
what
in
you're
charge.
telling me, but I don't.
You made it sound like a compliment,
You're in charge.
The day I get a compliment from Councilor Hogan, I think it's the day.
I have given you one, maybe.
I think there was one. There might have been one early on.
Before I got to know him.
Right.
Other questions?
I just have,
Is this enough? Is this enough?
for the people,
Are you
it has to
comfortable?
be.
So there's
Compensate them.
it's not enough, but
It's not enough.
it's as much as we can consume. Right? So if this is realistic for what we can accomplish, particularly what is on Kelsey's plate, we couldn't consume anymore or spend anymore. Would I like to be doing this faster? Absolutely. I'd love to be doing this faster. The upgrade to the PeopleSoft financial system is so long overdue, but there's a pace, there's a cadence that we have to meet. So is it enough? No. Is it as much as we can do right now?
Yes.
The same with cybersecurity.
They can't
Is it
take
enough?
people
No.
on the
Is it as much
people.
as we can do right now? Yes.
Great.
Really quick question, constituent relationship management software, can you speak to that for like 20 seconds and give me just a sense of what that is?
Sure. So I'm going to use this one. It's a little less fussy. In the market, this is the Salesforce, this is the Microsoft Dynamics, this is HubSpot. These are systems that across the organization are going to enable cross-functional data sharing, the visibility to see from see-click-fix that system could integrate. Somebody could then, for a service request, it will handle more complex service requests. For example, in code enforcement, things that take longer amounts of time. It'll enable, more advanced business development, relationship management. We've had extensive conversation with neighborhood development on how to, for example, with folks' permission, obviously, share lead cases and have advanced insights into, one of the issues we have right now is that we're not able to look at the impact of lead across an individual who's moving from multiple,
Right.
multiple addresses. So, the possibilities are endless, which makes it that in itself a beast to accomplish. But it's a doable beast if we have focus and a clear roadmap of where our priorities lie, and if there's the buy-in, which I think there definitely is the buy-in right now.
Will the council have access to that beast?
Absolutely, 100%.
Because I'm sure we could all contribute to that constituent information as
Yeah.
well, and help connect some of those dots.
Yeah.
Because I'm constantly, as we all are, going to codes, going to NVE, going to BAA,
Yeah.
and trying to connect those dots.
And with this, I think the goal is, again, what we are really trying to accomplish within the digital world is enterprise level thinking. There is no such thing as an isolated purchasing, agreement on a department level that doesn't have impact across our technology landscape. And so we're, having more and more of those conversations about just how connected we can be if we have a unified vision of digital transformation, not only so that we can operate more efficiently internally, but also, have better city services and have better information across departments.
So page 4, ones that don't have the bar, is that going to be part of the beast that you just spoke of?
Those are separate beasts, but just as beast-like. So everything that doesn't have a bar needs to be scoped. So if, that is of the utmost priority going into FY23 to understand how, AR, project costing, grants management, FOIL tracker, just how long of an effort all of these are. Because they could even extend beyond FY24. So, taking the next few months, doing the discovery process, understanding the requirements, understanding the vendors that are out there that accomplish what it is that we need, identifying the internal resources that we need to make this happen, a lot of whom, are on my team or across departments, those subject matter experts. But then assessing a partner, a systems integrator partner who have very specialized knowledge for these systems can help us, configure it, implement it. And then, during that process, I will say when we do work with vendors, there's knowledge sharing. There's information that the vendors are giving us to be able to better handle these applications and systems when they do go away. So, that's all part of the process. And then, of course, go live and roll out. OCM, as Dave mentioned, working with our communications team to make sure that this doesn't happen in a silo. We're all connected in these, and they're massive projects.
And API with all of those resources that they just mentioned in the last meeting with Harvard and everybody else. I hope that they would all.
We definitely work with them constantly to figure out, where can we work with them to modernize, to innovate how we're actually doing these things and do process improvement and all that kind of stuff.
Kelsey makes a great point how that the CRM package is going to stitch together all the silos.
And I just tore up our microphones.
Stitch together this fuller picture of what's going on. You don't have to call 4 different departments.
Yeah.
That constituent doesn't either.
Sure.
So we're not only doing that in software, but on the budget side, all software purchases now go through
Frank's
IT.
budget.
That allows us to get a bigger view of one department's buying one thing, another department's buying the same thing, but what if they bought it together, that sort of thing.
Right.
So we're trying to implement that across the organization. We're not 100% there yet, but we're a lot closer than we've ever been.
Yeah.
So one of the three of you maybe can answer this, because the innovative team talked about Docusign, and I know it's at law, but is that going to spread any further? Because we're not in the office at some point, and we need to be able to have our assistants plug in our signature at some point.
So DocuSign's a great example of the way the system should work, our digitalization system should work. We brought in API to take a look at a human resources function that was universally reviled across the city. The way managing requisitions for new positions or changes in position, nobody liked it. It was just broken. The only advantage to it was paper-driven, so that I could always blame Tim Rudd for not having moved the paper, and he could always blame me. But other than that, there was no advantage to the system at all. API came in, looked at the business process, did some refinements around the business process itself, and then called in Kelsey's team and said, we need a technical response to what's left. And Kelsey's team came in, they did their evaluation, they looked at a variety of packages, and then said DocuSign is a great solution here, not the least of which the reason they chose DocuSign is because it could be used universally across the city. So there's multiple places that DocuSign can be used. It's very likely it could be used in your case. It's going to be used in the law department. It's going to be used in other departments as well. So absolutely, we have, as Kelsey called it, an enterprise solution that we can now apply in multiple cases across the city.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out,
Yes or no?
I mean, I'm trying to figure out the timeline, because I mean, I get it, but I mean, my insurance agency uses DocuSign, and not-for-profit uses DocuSign, so when could we think that it might be implemented for my office?
So that's your office reaching out to Kelsey and saying, here's the business process that's broken, that we need to fix. And if Kelsey says, look, there's a business process upgrade that needs to be done first, that's API, they'll come in and they'll take a look at streamlining it. But when it's ready, then Kelsey's team can take a look at when they're able to put it. It should be relatively straightforward. It's probably something that Kelsey can probably, squeeze in flight, but
Kelsey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Quincy, there is your phone call.
Yes, yes.
yeah.
All of them.
Kelsey, just say we'll take care of it, that's it.
We'll take care of it. We're right, yeah.
Overnight, Kelsey, please.
I mean, we have, right now, yes, on it. No, I think one thing that we're really in transition right now is, as I mentioned, we're really trying to be proactive. And that is in itself, figuring out how to be proactive when there's so many competing needs in terms of digital services is a process itself, right? So there is a roadmap, so to speak, for Docusign, just based off of, the people on the team hearing about certain use cases of, oh my gosh, I hate this process. Like, what can we do about this? Well, let's put it on the roadmap and start attacking these one by one. So we can talk and prioritize your use case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Might as well sit here. All righty.
Should I order pizza?